Did you know that Orlando is considered one of the most overvalued areas in the entire country? In fact, it's number 13, and the Deltona area, not too far behind it, coming in at number 15. That's according to a study that recently came out from FAU researchers down in Boca Raton, Florida. They put together a list of the most overvalued markets in the entire country. Out of the top 15, Florida actually had 8 different areas in that list. Now, I wasn't really surprised to see Florida cities on that list. I certainly expected to see us on there somewhere, but the Florida city that was on this list of the most overvalued of any other Florida city was not the one that I was expecting to see. I was expecting to see Miami. I think that's a lot of people's guesses, first guess as well. Tampa was actually the Florida city that topped the list. It was near the top of this entire list, right up there with Atlanta and the Detroit area. However, there are some things about this list, or at least how they came up with their information, some of the data points or markers that were important to them in putting together this study and this list, that I have some perspective that I would offer too, because a lot of this is very subjective, and I think it really depends on the lens of which you're looking through, and really what do you value and what's important to you. So I kind of want to break down some of this and explain some of it as well, and just kind of offer my perspective as a local in the Central Florida area. What's up, everybody? My name is Sprenkel. I am a Central Florida resident for the last 15 years, and I am a lifelong born and raised Floridian for even longer. And today we're going to talk about this article that recently came out listing the most overvalued areas around the country. And we're going to talk specifically about the Orlando metro area and the surrounding, Central Florida area. And I'm going to give my take and some local insider information that we have in our own experiences that we see day in and day out working with families who are relocating to and from this area, and kind of let you be the judge of that, especially if our area, the Orlando area, is a place that you're thinking about relocating. So the first issue that I have right off the bat with this study is that one of their main sources of information was Zillow. In fact, it says right in the article that the data that they pulled was based off the Zillow home pricing index. And that was used to calculate the percentage that an area was found to be over or undervalued of the expected price range. Now, I don't know what their expected price range or what they were basing that off of, but what I do know is that if we're just going off of Zillow's opinions on pricing and market values, this study is already off to a bad start, and I'll tell you why. Just last year, Zillow had to lay off 25% of their staff. They had to do that because they lost nearly $1 billion in their iBuyer program. You see, a few years back, as the pandemic was ramping up, Zillow was getting into the iBuyer game. If you're not familiar with iBuyers, think about Open Door, OfferPad. It's these large companies that will come in, they make you a cash offer for your home. The value proposition from them is that you don't have to put it on the market, you don't have to prep the home, you don't have to do repairs, all those different things. Now, the catch on that as well, the flip side is that they're going to make you a cash offer, and it's going to be below what the market value is. But that's the trade-off. Zillow, using their estimate, their housing pricing index, and what they thought the accurate market values of these homes were, they bought a lot of homes during that time. A lot of the homes that Zillow bought were sold at or below the price that they initially paid for. So much so they lost nearly $1 billion, had to lay off a quarter of their staff, and it was a huge disaster for them. And I also think it was very telling of just how accurate Zillow is in their pricing and their estimates. So for these researchers to take Zillow as their primary information source, I think is definitely a little suspicious right off the bat. Now, this article does mention a couple of things that I do agree with and that I think are accurate, and that is specifically what two of the primary reasons are for the housing appreciation that we've seen over the last few years. Number one, we've had a huge influx of people moving to the state. We've had even larger numbers since COVID. Some of that was COVID related. Without getting into politics, it's no secret that Florida was a little bit more lax, lenient on some of their policies. And we had a lot of people moving here simply because of those reasons. They weren't happy where they were at, or it was a job reason that had to do with COVID. They used to work in an office, now they're working from home. Now they can live anywhere. They wanted to also have some of those tax benefits of moving to Florida. We don't have a state income tax. A lot of our property taxes are lower than some of these other areas like New York and California. We had a huge influx of people from those areas. And the other reason too, and this is not just a problem for Florida, this is a problem for the entire country, is that we just haven't been building enough homes for the last 15 years since that housing crisis. A lot of developers in 2008 went out of business and they never returned back to the construction industry. So for the last 10, 15 years, we just have not been building enough homes to keep up with the number of home buyers that are out there. What this has done in return now as well is it's creating compression. And let me explain what I mean by that. The housing market crashed in 2008. The entire economy crashed in 2008. And you have an entire generation of millennials, my generation, of home buyers that they put off home buying for a number of years because that crisis in 2008 just kind of set everybody back. And it really forced us as a generation, for a lot of us, to have to delay some of these big milestones, and buying a house is one of them. So now, fast forward to 15 years and you have a lot of millennials now that are finally in a position to buy a home, and coming up right behind them, not too far behind, is Generation Z. So because of that, and simply just not having enough homes and enough inventory, that's supply and demand to me. That's basic, straightforward economics. If we don't have enough of a certain commodity and the demand for it is greater than the supply, then prices are naturally going to rise. There's more value in that item. To say that these homes are overvalued, at least in my opinion, I think it can lead people to thinking that we're setting ourselves up for a repeat of 2008. And I don't know how accurate that really is when you think about it, because one of the big, main, huge differences between right now and 2008 is that the lending practices and the lending guidelines are completely different than they were 15 years ago. Back then in 2006, 2007, it was very common for people to do adjustable rate mortgages, these subprime mortgages, zero money down, no upfront costs. We just weren't doing our due diligence from a lending standpoint on qualifying these home buyers and these individuals. And when the bottom finally fell out, everybody got exposed. Since that time, a lot of things have been put in place to make the process a lot more stringent. As a home buyer, you have to jump through a lot more hoops, and there's a lot more red tape and confirming of people's resources and assets and ability to repay these loans, that now the typical buyer is putting at the very least 3%, 3.5% down. We're not seeing the same type of lending practices, so that creates a completely different situation. And that's pretty evident too when you look at the standpoint that our economy over the last 18 months has not been that great. The interest rates, as far as that go, it's no secret. Those things have skyrocketed, has certainly knocked people out of contention or had forced them to adjust their parameters and their expectations on their home purchase. But despite all that, we still see a continued rise in pricing. So even though we can't control the market, we can't control home prices, and nobody can, it's our job to really study it, to really know it, and how to best operate within that whatever market that we're in, and still continue to get the very best deal possible within those parameters for the families that we're working with. We want to try to help as many people as we can, and that's why we put this information out here. If you have not subscribed yet, please go ahead, smash that subscribe button, ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the content, because my team and I are working with people every day. We'd love to be a resource for you, even if you just have some questions. I think this article did a good job citing some of the reasons that we have seen a rise in home prices, but I think to say that these areas are simply overvalued now, I think it really depends on who you're speaking with. I think it's very subjective, because I think the reason that people move are for subjective reasons and for personal reasons, and what value people see in a certain area or a certain place or a certain home, that's their subjective opinion on that. What is that individual looking for, right? Maybe moving to Florida and from somewhere else is saving them a ton of money in other areas as well. It's a better circumstance financially, personally for them, and there's a ton of value in there as well that I don't think can be discounted. Curious what you guys think. Drop it in the comments. Do you think Orlando is overpriced? What other areas do you think are overpriced? Or do you think that this article is just completely off base? Drop it in the comments, let us know. And like I said, if you have not hit the subscribe button, go ahead and do that. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the information we're putting out to you guys on a regular basis. As I said, my team and I are working with people every single day who are relocating to and from the Orlando area, and we absolutely love it. But you got to reach out to us. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. We'd love to be a resource for you. And until next time, I'm Don Sprenkel. We're living in Orlando, Florida, and we got your back.